So, amidst a market right now with hardware that looks absolutely broken, to where GPUs are being discontinued mid generation, game consoles that have only gone up in price throughout that current generation, to where, hey, if you bought it day one, turns out it was an appreciating asset, to now with the DRAM squeeze, where people are concerned that things could get even more expensive almost, it seems like, each and every week. There's one future that's currently being pitched, and it's actually something that I've been thinking about for a little while now, and I see it getting brought up more and more, to the point where people who are kind of steering the ship for this big AI revolution and controls quite a bit of, well, how people just get online, are starting to say the quiet part out loud. And I gotta say, it does have me concerned as to where we're heading right now when it comes to actually owning your hardware, but we'll go over that here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. So after going over all of that, it's important to note that you think about time and it kind of sneaks up on you, right? So we're coming up on March right now. Right? That'll be in a couple of months. And that means 9 years ago at that time, the Switch 1 came out. That means we have to go back 12 years, more than 12 years, to where the PS4 and the Xbox One released. And 10 years, actually, here in a few months, 10 years ago, the GTX 1080 released. You think about those things, and then you don't really correlate it to that much time. But that's how quick things move, but also how quick things seem to evolve. If you go back to the beginning of the PS3 and the 360 generation, while yes, that was 20 years ago, we didn't have online storefronts at all when they launched. In fact, it wasn't until like 2009, 2010 where those popped up. So now look where we are with buying games immediately on your system, how fast they download, the whole thing. So then I stop and think, what exactly will happen in another 15 or 20 years? Well, what if hardware was so expensive that you didn't actually own hardware? Hardware wasn't even provided to consumers. What if you just kind of rented your PC, your gaming system, everything from, yes, the cloud, the power of the cloud? It's coming back around, I feel like, now. But this article popped up, and I saw it and I said, yep, there it is. This was over on Windows Central from Jez Corden, who did a good job kind of putting a spotlight on this one. Jeff Bezos, of course, seems to have a lot of pull in the industry in general, like across the board, technology, the whole thing, right? You think of Jeff Bezos, Satya Nadella, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, people who are, at the top, kind of steering the ship right now. Tim Cook with Apple. And so whenever they say stuff, I think it's definitely worth paying attention, because sometimes they say something that is like, oh, is that just where we're heading right now? Well, this is where he says, Jeff Bezos said the quiet part out loud, hopes that you'll give up your PC to rent one from the cloud. What prediction did Jeff Bezos make back then? That seems particularly poignant right now. Bezos thinks that local PC hardware is antiquated and that the future will revolve around cloud computing scenarios where you rent your compute from companies like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure. And sometimes Amazon and their web services, they suffer an outage. And at that point, people stop and go, wow, a lot of stuff relies on Amazon Web Services because nothing works right now. There really are a couple of key points that just hold the entire internet up. All right. So it should really tell you how much power and influence some of these people have who are at the top of these companies. So when Jeff Bezos goes, hey, eventually you don't even need a computer, they're talking about something called thin clients, where it'll look like a laptop, but there really won't be much there at all. It's going to be a screen and an input device, keyboard, touchpad, mouse, anything like that. A headset, I guess, if you need to hear what's on there, and microphone. But everything else will just be streamed to your device. And it's not just a PC. This also reminded me of something that Elon Musk said. And look, here's the thing with Elon Musk: whatever he says, double or triple up the timeline that's suggested. All right, that might be the safe way to go about it, especially when he's speaking in what's a very informal environment like the Joe Rogan podcast. But it just kind of gives you an idea as to what they're thinking, and maybe where they're pushing right now for some of their innovations. Musk said traditional smartphones and app based or operating systems will give way to devices that act as terminals for artificial intelligence. Rather than opening apps or typing requests, users would receive content generated or selected by AI based on intent and prediction. So, your iPhone, your Galaxy phone really wouldn't have much at all inside. Again, there's a screen, there's some kind of input device like a touch screen. Everything though would be streamed and kind of processed by AI. He put a timetable of like 2032 or something on it. Okay. I I think it's further out, I feel like, than 7 or 8 years. I'm still thinking, again, who knows what happens with AI. I think we're at least 10 years out from something like this being a reality. Here's the thing, we know right now that AI is absolutely, with these data centers that are being built, squeezing the market that would give us the ability to have local compute, as in building a PC. I mean, people have clearly realized by now, yeah, oh wow, RAM prices are getting more expensive. But you're also going to start saying that more and more about GPUs. You're going to say that more and more about buying a solid state drive. It's everything for the most part is being affected by what we're seeing. Even TVs, which ironically enough, the other day, or maybe a week ago, I said, wow, it's impressive that TVs, out of everything around us, is like the one consumer grade electronics that has, I feel like, gotten cheaper, but actually gotten better as well. And now we're hearing, oh yeah, that's probably going up in price too. So when it comes down to this and you see, oh, Samsung warns the memory shortages driving industry-wide price surge in 2026 will continue for quite some time. They say throughout 2026, most likely in the next year, 2027. I don't doubt that. So we probably will eventually get to the point where you get a menu almost like this. This is GeForce Now. So with cloud-based gaming, GeForce Now, I think right now, I will say gold standard maybe, it's very good. So it's still not quite perfect with native experiences, as of course things can still go wrong. You could have a hiccup in your internet connection, you get a big spike in lag, and then boom, you're dead in your multiplayer game. The point is, when it's all working smoothly and the stars align, it's very close to almost native experience. Now, that said, you do have to pay up for it. And people have already run the numbers and done the math, and they start to realize, wow, this is actually quite expensive. And that's right now important to note when a vast majority of people aren't using this. So clearly, demand goes up for this, pricing would also go up, especially since there is a time limit on this of 100 hours per month. And you can pay more for it then, of course, if you want to throw more money in, you can. 100 hours premium monthly playtime, and then additional playtime available. Spend more money, get more hours, but it gets quite expensive. I recently did a like a mini podcast almost with Colin Moriarty, and he brought up the back in the day for dial-up connection. If you had a second phone line and you were just on it constantly and using it for dial-up, you would be charged back then for overage time. And you say racked up a couple $1,000 bill or something in a month. And I don't doubt it, because that's just kind of the way it was back then. So I'm almost wondering, if are we going to hear horror stories of people like building up a massive, massive bill that they wouldn't have if they could have built a PC with, they have like a RTX 40. I mean, you could local, set up a 1440p of 4070 is probably fine for most people, but they'll flash the nice big 4080 or 5080 or whatever in front of you and be like, oh, it's $20 per month. Again, that adds up over time, especially if you're someone who's going to be playing quite a bit. But then there's also the control aspect. Do they want to then move over to ad-supported nature, even with paid? That's something we see with streaming all the time for video. Even if you pay for something like Hulu, they go, oh yeah, you're still going to see ads. Really? It's like $8 a month. I still need to watch commercials during these breaks. That's strange. But that does also then bring in the question, how profitable is all of this really? And how much further do you need to drag this thing out? And how much more do you have to squeeze out of what becomes kind of just a stone at that point? Sure. But when you look at AI right now, their business model, serious concerns that they're not going to be able to make any money, which then also makes you wonder, okay, how far do they have to push this thing before it makes sense from a business perspective? Because a ton of money right now is being poured in, and eventually it has to turn in some results, or this will feel like a massive waste of time. Now, results could be, hey, AI has actually solved a significant problem that we've had in human history. It could be disease, it could be financial issues, whatever, right? But if AI could solve that, then sure, the money stuff kind of goes out the window because you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel for, wow, if AI can do this, what else can it figure out? But for us with gaming, my concern is the short term is legitimately going to be that a lot of people get priced out of the market, and the solve is cloud based. And you know what? That benefits, once again, coming back around, the companies who are all in on AI. And that's one of the reasons it really is why you see this so aggressively pushed in your face with AI. Microsoft being a big one where Copilot is everywhere. Google with Gemini. At one point, I Google Chrome open, and there were two Gemini tabs, like two instances of it. I'm like, what is? How much more Gemini do I need here on this screen? But that's why they need you to use it. That's it. For it to justify its existence, they have to have people use it, and they have to basically have it become where it's an accepted part of people's lives so that they can at some point get to break even and have the whole thing make sense. But in the short term, RAM prices are going to be very expensive because they are able to gobble up all of the RAM, just about all the DRAM. And eventually it's like, hey, we're just going to be on aging hardware. Or if we want that really, really nice RTX 7080, we can rent it from the cloud and end up spending probably hundreds, maybe even $1,000 or more per year based on how much time you're playing. Even with game consoles, since they're kind of like mini PCs at this time, and yes, these companies like Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo are able to source a ton of parts, bring them together, and then on a level we're not able to as just consumers, but then also subsidize further. It does seem that prices around consoles are just getting more and more expensive, and we could see a PlayStation 6 at some point end up coming out and being $700-800. Microsoft's next system might be $1,000 plus, and it seems like maybe the cloud solution would also be pushed on consoles to where we get this nice local system you can buy, or you get a cheaper little thin client box that streams everything, which is kind of funny because that's what Microsoft had at least apparently been working on internally with that Keystone project, and then they shelved it, and that just sounds like Microsoft being Microsoft. They were kind of onto something there with the power of the cloud, put it away for a bit, and now it's swinging all the way back around. But game consoles, to me, could look very different in a couple of generations, and yeah, that's something that gets called for all the time. How many times has it been predicted that this is the last generation for consoles? I don't think we're there yet, but 10 or 15 years from now, who knows? Maybe we'll be renting those too from the cloud. Oh, and then in like 20 years, retro gaming will be anything that doesn't have to be plugged into a network and is reliant on the cloud. Local hardware might legitimately be the big nostalgia driver, which is an absolutely crazy world to think about. But to me, I think it's really important to recognize that local compute, building your own PC and stuff, I think we have taken it for granted for a while because we don't have this kind of future in front of us. It's not the present yet. But I'm just saying, you know what? If you have that PC that you're putting away because it's old now, maybe still hold on to it, because I honestly am not sure where the future is going to head here with all the discussion around AI and the cloud being intertwined, and the idea of you really not needing your own PC. I will say though, I've been looking more and more into Linux, and it's also gotten a lot better. So hey, if you're getting tired of Windows, maybe look into some Linux distros just for the future. Just put it out there. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Do you think this is kind of an overreaction? Because I am seeing a lot of people discuss it. Or do you think we're actually looking like they're telling us what the future holds in the next 10 years, maybe sooner, where we just rent all of our PCs and stuff to use going forward? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.